It was the kind of pain that cuts deep, the kind that leaves scars both visible and invisible. A betrayal, a shattered trust, a heartbroken marriage. It seemed like there was no way forward. But what if the path to healing was not about forgetting, but about confronting the past head-on? What if forgiveness was the key to truly moving on? This is the story of a man who, after discovering his wife's infidelity, chose to go through a grueling process of emotional confrontation, reconciliation, and personal growth. It's a tale of how deep pain can eventually lead to unexpected healing, and how a marriage, once broken, can rise from the ashes through determination, self-care, and a commitment to each other. So, if you're grappling with a betrayal or heartbreak of your own, or simply wondering if true forgiveness is possible, this story is for you. It's about the slow and painful journey towards healing, the importance of facing one's demons, and the unexpected rewards of patience, understanding, and, above all, love. It all started on what I now call D-Day, the day my world came crashing down. I came home to find everything I thought I knew about my marriage turned upside down. The evidence was clear, undeniable, and utterly painful. My wife, the woman I had loved and built a life with, had betrayed me. The sting of betrayal is indescribable. It's not just the act itself, but the realization that the trust you thought was unbreakable has shattered into a million pieces. That night, after the truth came out, I retreated to my son's room, trying to find solace in the calmness of his innocent sleep. I couldn't comprehend what had just happened, but one thing was clear. My life would never be the same. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about everything that had led to it, and everything that had been destroyed in its wake. My heart ached as I sat by his crib, feeling lost and broken. But even in the depths of my despair, I knew that the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. I was facing a decision. What would I do next? The betrayal was raw, the pain excruciating, and I felt like I was drowning in it. But I had to make a choice. Wallow in my anger, or find a way to heal. After the initial shock wore off, I found myself in an emotional whirlwind. Anger, confusion, and betrayal washed over me in waves. I didn't know where to direct my pain, and I didn't know how to navigate through it. Yet, I wasn't ready to give up on the relationship just yet. It wasn't about saving the marriage immediately. It was about understanding what had happened and whether or not we could move forward. We decided to have regular meetings, structured sessions where we would lay everything on the table. We called it the Thursday night fight night. The rules were simple. We would take notes, write down our feelings, and ask each other difficult questions. No topic was off limits, and every question had to be answered honestly. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. We started with assessing our previous relationship, how it had been, what went wrong, and what had led us to this moment. The process wasn't without its difficulties. I made mistakes. Many mistakes. I used these sessions as an opportunity to embarrass my wife. I pushed her to recount the hurtful things she had said about me, to detail the affair in all its painful explicitness. I thought it would help me process the emotions, but in reality, it only deepened the wound. Every word she spoke about the affair stung like salt in an open wound. Despite my emotional outbursts, my wife handled the situation with grace. She didn't avoid my questions, and she answered honestly, even when it hurt. She stood strong, believing that our relationship was worth saving, that we could rebuild the life we had lost together. But I wasn't sure. At times, I couldn't imagine ever reconciling, especially with the physical intimacy we once shared, now a distant memory. The thought of being close to her again felt impossible. Months passed, and despite all the emotional turmoil, we kept pushing forward. I didn't want to give up on her, on us, but I couldn't imagine letting go of the anger that had consumed me. She suggested moving back in, starting the next phase of our journey, but I declined. I didn't want to take that step, even though I knew it was what she wanted. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to forgive her. But after a while, I realized something. I wasn't just avoiding reconciliation, I was afraid. Afraid of being vulnerable again, afraid of letting my guard down. The pain I had felt was still fresh, still real, and I didn't want to risk opening myself up to that kind of hurt again. It wasn't until months later that I finally relented. She moved back in, but under strict conditions. There would be no physical contact, none at all. She would sleep in the spare room, and I would manage her finances. There would be boundaries, firm ones, that would keep us both safe emotionally. I wasn't ready to trust her fully, but I was willing to take the first step toward healing. Living together again was harder than I had anticipated. The tension between us was palpable. I picked fights over small things, said hurtful things, and pushed her away in every way I could. I didn't want to let her back in. I didn't want to be vulnerable. But deep down, I knew that I had to confront my own demons in order to move forward. It was 6 months into this new arrangement when I had my breakthrough. After a particularly difficult day, with triggers all around me, I locked myself in the bedroom, feeling overwhelmed by everything. I couldn't handle the weight of it all anymore. I was done. But then, she knocked on the door. Quietly, gently, asking if I was ready to talk. She didn't push, didn't try to force me to open up. She simply sat outside the door, waiting for me. I stayed in that room for an hour, wrestling with my thoughts. But eventually, I opened the door. We sat in her room, a quiet space where we could finally talk without the walls we had built around ourselves. I told her what had happened after the night I learned about the affair. The dark thoughts that had consumed me. The pain that I hadn't shared with her. For the first time, I allowed myself to be vulnerable. It wasn't easy, but that conversation marked the turning point for me. I wasn't fully ready to forgive her yet, but I started to open up. That was the first step. In time, the emotional connection between us began to rebuild. Over the following months, we slowly started to reconnect. It wasn't immediate, and it wasn't easy. But every step, no matter how small, brought us closer together. We held hands more often. We shared quick kisses. We hugged more, even if it was awkward at first. Slowly, the intimacy that had been lost began to return. But sex, true intimacy, remained elusive. It wasn't until nearly a year after she had moved back in that we became intimate again. It wasn't just about the physical act. It was about the emotional bond that had been broken and was now being rebuilt. I remember the day it happened. It was like a wave of healing washed over us. We were no longer two people trapped in the past, but two people who had chosen to move forward together. The first time we were intimate after everything was a moment of hysterical bonding, a time when emotions and physical connection collided in a way that felt both surreal and deeply meaningful. Today, our marriage is stronger than it's ever been. We've grown, we've changed, and we've raised 3 children. Children who are blissfully unaware of the pain we endured to get to this point. We've created a life together, filled with joy, laughter, and love. But even now, there are moments when I'm triggered by something small, something unexpected, that brings me back to those dark days. It's rare, but it happens. And when it does, she's there, holding my hand, comforting me, saying, "I love you," or "thank you." In those moments, I'm reminded of how far we've come. Our journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Forgiveness wasn't instantaneous. It took time, effort, and a willingness to confront the darkest parts of ourselves. But we did it. Together. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that the pain I experienced, while excruciating, allowed me to grow. It taught me about myself, about forgiveness, and about the power of love. It wasn't about pretending that everything was okay or glossing over the pain. It was about facing the truth, accepting it, and choosing to move forward. As I look back now, I can say that we've triumphed over adversity. We've built a life that is richer, more meaningful, and more authentic than it ever was before. And as we enter this new phase of life with children grown and grandchildren on the way, I know that we are stronger than we've ever been. Forgiveness is not a simple task. It's a journey. It's not about forgetting the pain or pretending that everything is fine. It's about choosing to move forward, to heal, and to rebuild trust where it was once broken. If you're on a similar journey, I urge you to take it one step at a time. Confront the pain, ask the tough questions, and allow yourself the space to heal. Remember that self-care is essential, and while reconciliation may be a long and difficult road, it can be worth it in the end. Through our struggles, we found strength. Through our pain, we found healing. And through forgiveness, we found love once more.